Hello everyone, I am Lee and you are watching another episode of Barham Engines. So, what we got going on today? First thing I've done this morning, obviously finished, honed, we've got the pistons now for the Mark III Focus RS for Paul down here. I've given it a good clean, checked those bores. We're running half a thou over the recommended running clearance for the pistons, which is absolutely perfect. I've given this a thorough clean, etc. Made sure that the main stud and nut kit is in correctly. I've torqued up the mains, measured the housings, they're absolutely fine. So they have been honed to the ARP main stud and nut kit. As you see in the last video, Isaac's balanced the crank assembly. Oh, by the way, I did have a few emails off people and I noticed a few comments on people saying it'd be nice if I showed how we actually do balance the crank assemblies, especially the clutches when they're that far out. If you go back to our earlier videos, sort of about a year ago, we did show that, but I will do that again. Next time Isaac has a crank up, we'll show you exactly how we balance that out. But anyway, yeah, he's balanced the crank assembly. I've just got to give the crank a clean. I've cleaned everything else. You can see here a little hint of blue on the edge of the block. I've actually run out of the paint. I've ordered some more from Marlowe's. That should be here in a bit. But Paul, as I've said in a previous video, he wants that block painted blue. And that is the blue that we did the Pinto and the pre-cross flow in. This blue down here, a very nice blue. In fact, I'm toying with the idea of doing the BMW block in that blue. So this is our S50. Obviously, you see I've started taking the loom off this morning. I came in extra early, so wasn't doing it while I should be doing other people's work. Took the loom off it, obviously labelled all that up. You can see the state of the block now. It's looking fairly grotty. So yeah, we're going to keep, over the sort of next mornings and evenings, going to start taking a few more bits off that and get that all cleaned up. But yeah, the next step on this, waiting for the bearings, etc. Then we can get it in, do a dummy build with the pistons and rods in. We're going to have to take a little bit off the pistons. I've faced the block. We've got that brace in, that's come up absolutely lovely. And I've ended up taking about 7 thou off the face of that block. So obviously there is going to have to be a bit of jiggery pokery done with the piston crowns, make sure it's all good. Then we've got to torque it all up and basically give Paul that back as a short motor. He's going to come and collect it, pay us a visit. And he's going to bring the cylinder head, so that'll be that one done. But I think next step, guys, like I've promised, we're going to start stripping this Focus RS Mark II. So we've got a Mark III here. This one's a Mark II. In fact, I think it's out of an ST, but same engine basically. This one's got a possible crank issue, so we're going to get on with that, get it stripped, take you guys through it, and see what we can find, guys. But yeah, just to recap very briefly, this is a sort of 1-year-old engine, a Ford genuine engine, and something's gone belly up. So obviously there's no warranty with Ford for some reason, that's why we've got it. But let's get in amongst it and see what we've got. So we've got our mate back today. Paul's in. Nice to see you, Paul. We've had a little bit of a change around. Still waiting for the rods and bearings on this Focus. So Paul can't get on with that. So in the meantime, he's just going to crack on with this Rover V8. All we've got to do is put the camshaft in, time it up. I haven't got the oil pickup pipe, so we can't put the sump on properly, but we're just going to put it on loosely and get what we can together. Maybe get the front cover on. But going back to the Focus ST motor, so you can see we took the cylinder head off now. Just have a quick look at this. It looks fairly black and cokey in those combustion chambers. No signs of head gasket issue, but then there wasn't the head gasket issue symptoms. So looking down the bores again, the top of the pistons are all a bit coked up. So be interesting to see what the rings are like. Bear in mind this engine's about a year old. So we'll just turn it over, get the sump off, and see if we can see any disasters. Right, so we've got the sump off, and if you come down here, Paul, and have a look in the bottom of the sump, it's not looking too great in that oil. There's chunks of metal down there, and all in the side here. Right, so we've had the first one off, Paul. So obviously first thing we do is we mark the caps so we know which order the rods go in and which way round, and how I do that. So say this is number 5 rod from the front, 5 dots at the front of the rod, so we know that that goes that way round, and it's number 5. So we've had the first one off. You can see that journal looks perfect, and so does the bearing down there, and this is the other half of the bearing, which looks like brand new, to be honest. So just about to take number 2 off, and as you can see, that does not look healthy. So the bearings are down here. You can see it's spun the shells because the bottom bearing is sort of turned slightly, and it's probably welded itself to that rod. So I would suspect that that is a problem, Paul.
It's pretty horrendous.
It is. And the reason for that, I don't know yet. So what we'll do is we'll have all the rest off and just see if there's any others, but whether it's come from a main, I do not know. So the next thing we're going to do is take this mains carrier off and have a look there, because if it's spun a shell in the main, the block's scrap, because we obviously the side that goes in the block is not going to be very good. You can't really go about line boring it once it's spun a shell in the main, because you're just going to end up too far up, and with these modern engines they don't like it, so that is not going to happen. So number 3 is okay. See, them bearings look perfect, really, don't they?
It's brand new.
Well, the engine is about a year old. It's not done many miles. As I say, I'm not too sure what the warranty is, or why there is no warranty. Obviously there isn't from Ford, because we wouldn't have it otherwise, but a bit unusual, isn't it? Must be just over a year, but
That's strange just to do one in the middle as well.
it is, yeah.
You would think, you understand if it's furthest from the oil pump, but
So the first thing I'll be checking is, obviously we've got the pickup pipe here is plastic, so we'll be having a good look at that, maybe do a vacuum test on it, make sure it's not leaking, because obviously it's plastic and it's joint down the middle, so if you've got a split in there anywhere,
yeah,
or a crack, and it's drawing in air, then that is obviously not going to do it any favours. So number 5 looks good. So our problem at the minute is number 2. So let's get that carrier off and see if we can see anything in the mains. Right, so we've got the cradle off now, and eventually we've got the crank out. And what I mean by that is, we've got the pistons out, before we even started undoing the cradle, the crank wouldn't turn, strangely enough. So I was thinking the worst. I was thinking it's picked up on a main bearing. When we finally got it out, we got the cradle off with the crank still in it. And the crank was wedged in here, wouldn't come out. We managed to get it out, but looking at all the main bearings, they all look absolutely fine. There's a tiny bit of scoring on there, but nothing major. That's just literally wear, a bit of crack running the oil, I suppose. So not sure what's going on there. The only thing I can think at this point is, because it's done that end good and proper on the crank, it's bent it. So what happens there is the crank just bends, deforms, and it's nipped inside these mains, and that's the reason it wouldn't turn. So looking at all the mains here, they all look absolutely perfect. So So that is a good thing because it means the block's salvageable. The only thing I can think at the moment, the oil does smell a bit fumey, a bit petrol-y. And obviously, looking at these, I said to you before we even took the sump off, these combustion chambers look very oily for a fairly new motor. And if we look at one of the pistons, I mean, they're all the same. They all look very, very oily and wet. And when you feel these rings, I've said to you before, telltale sign, if you run your finger up these rings, they're razor sharp, and the tension actually feels like it's gone out of the rings. And you can see that centre or control ring there is, in places, is worn all the way up. So my feeling is at the moment this thing's been over-fueling. So whether they've got iffy injectors, I very much doubt they've got all of iffy injectors. I would have thought one of the terms in the warranty from Ford when they got the new engine was they replaced the injectors. The only thing is, as Paul suggests, is whether we've got an iffy map and it's just hosing in fuel, because that certainly, as we've seen before, can dilute the oil, which can cause a big end to go, or also it can, if it's got dribbly injectors or it's leaking, it's over-fueling drastically, which it does look like it may be, then it's going to put load on the end and do it that way. So my feeling is at the moment it may be something like that. I'm going to give the customer a quick bell and try and get to the bottom of what's going on, because obviously if we're going to be building this, we're going to need a new crank. The warranty is going to lie on us. So I think what I might do is have a chat with them, send a sample of the oil off to get tested, and see if we can get to the bottom of why this thing has basically been wearing the rings. Right guys, I've been in touch with the customer on the Focus engine. Now, he said to me this engine was bought 6 months ago, so I'm not sure what the warranty was on the new motor from Ford. The reason they put a new engine in is because the turbo went absolutely obliterated itself, all went in the engine, blah de blah. So they put this motor in. Now, I have said to him that my feeling is, obviously we don't want to go any further, and we recommend they don't go any further on this until we get a sample of the oil checked, because I think that this thing's been over-fueling. He says to me he doesn't think it's Matt. They've been looking after the car for several years, but it's just in the last year they've had this sort of coincidental line of things that have gone wrong with it. So I said to them, go away, speak to your customer, see if it has been mapped. I said, if you can't, a lot of the time you don't get the full story or the truth. I said, so sending the sample of the oil off, it tells you a million things. It will tell us if there's fuel in there, blah de blah. So that's where we stand with it at the moment, guys. We're going to have to wait and put it in the next video maybe, but it's all on hold at the minute. So the next thing is, Paul is just about to strip that lovely looking Cosworth engine and see what we got in there. It's an unknown. The customer did say to me that it needs liners. Why it needs liners at this stage, I don't know, but we will soon see. So let's get out there and see what Paul's finding as we go along. Right, so here's the lovely looking Cosworth. As good as it looks, we're not sure what it's like inside. First thing Paul's done, obviously, is take the rocker cover off.
I took in the...
What have we found so far, Paul?
Well, so this cam cap was in the wrong. So it's number 6 in there.
Oh, great.
Number 1 should be there, number 6 should be there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
7,
6,
8, 9. Right, okay.
These are fine, but they're not right for some reason.
Yeah.
So it's probably quite lucky the cam still turn, because sometimes you can get the caps wrong and it won't turn at all.
I was going to say, yeah.
So that's quite lucky. I did take these oil bungs out quickly.
Yeah.
And it's not amazing, really.
Ah, lovely.
They've probably not been out for a while.
Did you say that the cam caps were extra tight as well?
They were very tight. Yeah, they're meant to be like 15 Newton meters usually, and I had to get probably a little bit overkill, but still needed something like that to get them off.
Which you shouldn't do. You should be able to do that with a
should be off
little
the spanner
ratchet.
quite easily.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So that's not ideal.
So far, we've got gloop in the oil ways of the cylinder head.
Yeah.
A few of the caps are on the wrong way, and they are done way too tightly.
Yeah, if we'll take these caps off.
Take these caps off. Take the cams out.
Take the cams out. I think the head's been off before, isn't it? He's taken the head off the customer.
I think so, yeah. I don't know the full story of this now, but...
These head bolts were loose anyway, so...
Well, that is where we're going to leave it for today's video, Paul.
On the cliffhanger.
We're going to leave them on a cliffhanger. and leave it for the next video to see what we've got inside.
Tune in next time.
So stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
So there we go, guys. Left you on a bit of a cliffhanger. Please join us on the next video to see what's in this Cosworth engine. Hope you've enjoyed today's video. Until then, have a great evening and we'll see you then. Cheers, guys.